Alright, so I'm going to try to cut to the chase. I don't think there's anyone here who doesn't already know my thoughts on Caitlyn Jenner and how problematic the things she says can be at times. If you want to go in depth, I have several videos on that, although the one in this link up here probably honestly sums it up the best. Alright, so let's get to the root of all this, and before we do, I'm going to make a couple of things clear. First, it is not any of our jobs to go policing anyone else's gender. If Kate says she's a woman, she is a woman. I don't care how much internalized transphobia comes flying out of her mouth, or how problematic she can be, or what her politics are. None of these things are any reason to question the validity of her gender. It's incredibly transphobic, and if you want to start pulling that shit, then frankly, in my eyes, you're no better than any cis bigot, and that goes for trying to police anyone's gender, period. It's not your job. Ever. For any reason, I don't care who you are. Second, Caitlyn Jenner is not and will never be responsible for the transphobic actions of any transphobic individual or group of transphobic individuals. Why? Because we as trans people are never to blame for our oppression. This is incredibly simple. Transphobic people commit acts of violence against us because they choose to. Period. I can be as angry and militant as I want and make as many angry cis-generalizing statements as I want, and Caitlyn can spout as much ill-informed bullshit and make an ass of herself as much as she wants. None of that will ever change the fact that nothing any of us could ever do could possibly force another individual to make a choice to act in a transphobic manner against their will. The only people responsible for transphobia are the cis people who have the power and privilege to be oppressive to us and make active choices to either actively commit violence against us or to try to deny their privilege or remain ignorant of it. It's a slippery slope from blaming something stupid Caitlyn Jenner says or something angry I say to blaming all trans people for our own oppression on the basis of our simply existing. Trans people are never to blame for transphobia, period. It is literally never any of our faults. That being said, Caitlyn, you've got a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. I was kind of done talking about this, but then I realized that it was too important not to. Not because Caitlyn is important, but because I'm important. I am. And it's taken me a long time and a lot of pushing and prodding to accept that, but I am important because I am a lower-class, queer, trans woman of color who has had to live through nearly every bad thing that can come along with that. It doesn't mean I'm always right, or that I'm more important than any other trans person. It just means that we are all important. Every single one of us, and everything we think, or feel, or experience, or have to say is infinitely important. That includes the things I think, and feel, and experience, and have to say. It's important, so I'm not going to keep it in. Caitlyn, you posted a tweet the other day showing a picture of you and several other women alongside Hillary Clinton. I don't know if it's supposed to indicate a change in your politics, but if it did, I can't deny it's a small step in the right direction, or at least away from the absolute wrong direction. I hope you have learned, or will soon come to learn, that the Republican Party does not consider the trans community as anything but a disease to be wiped from the face of the planet. And as I hope you will also learn, we are not a disease. We are normal. Every single one of us. There's nothing wrong with any of us. And I'm sorry that you grew up in a world telling you that there was. We all did, but the world is growing and learning and changing, and we all have to grow and learn and change with it. We are all normal, real, beautiful, valid, amazing, and most of all, deserving of respect on an equal level to cis individuals, which is something Republicans will never give us. Personally, I'm no fan of Hillary either for a wealth of reasons, but if push came to shove, I'd take her over anyone in the right wing. But the thing that caught me most about your tweet wasn't the picture, it was the hashtags. Learning from my girls, and willing to listen. Now these are attitudes that you've been expressing for some time. Pretty much every time you end up with your red bottoms in your mouth, which seems to be a habit of yours. And I'm going to be brutally honest, I'm tired of hearing it. We all are, because so many of us have tried so hard to be so patient and have been disappointed at every turn, and it would be so easy to solve if you could just realize one thing. You have a lot to learn, and you will never learn it from the kind of people you are spending your time around right now. You benefit from class privilege and white privilege. The fact that you are a trans woman is made almost entirely irrelevant in terms of how it negatively impacts your life by those two things. If you want a surgical procedure, you can get it done. If your whole family had rejected you, you could have taken your money and gone anywhere else you wanted and made a new one. You'll never have to worry about homelessness, and you probably won't have to worry about violence. If someone wanted to murder you for being trans, they'd have to do so knowing that they'd never get away with it, much less even succeed. The only way anyone can really hurt you for being trans is if you allow something someone says to hurt your feelings, and you've said many times that you have a stronger backbone than that. And no one hates you for your privilege, but it serves to blind you to the reality of what transness means for the rest of us. The consequences we suffer simply for being who we are. And if you want to learn, you're going to need to stop trying to learn from other privileged white women and start learning from us, the poor and oppressed trans women of color who make up the majority of the transgender community. And I'm not talking about Laverne Cox or Janet Mock or any of the other names everyone knows, even though they're great role models and absolutely amazing women who have come through so much adversity to where they are very deservedly successful now. I'm talking about the rest of us, down here. The people who have to live through this every day of our lives. The people who actually face the realities of institutionalized discrimination and unemployment, a 1 in 3 chance of ending up homeless, a 1 in 3 chance of ending up incarcerated, a 50% chance of suffering violence at the hands of our own families and friends, a near 100% chance of facing violence at the hands of others, and a 1 in 12 chance of being murdered just for being trans. All of the things that your privilege and the privilege of those you surround yourselves with will prevent you from ever truly knowing. While it might seem like a fairy tale for you to finally be able to be who you are, for the rest of us, it's a nightmare of necessity. There is nothing glamorous for us in being trans. It is a daily struggle for survival. I lost my home, my family, and nearly everyone I ever knew. I was beaten and thrown into a mental hospital for nearly 2 weeks until I was lucky enough to have a trans rights activism group find me and rescue me from what my own family had done to me. And we are still working to rehabilitate me from the mental anguish I lived through at the hands of my own parents and the people who were closest to me, which will probably never really go away. And since then, I've been sexually assaulted, verbally assaulted, nearly physically assaulted on several occasions, and I'm treated like I'm not even a fucking human being nearly everywhere I go. You want to learn about being trans? Then these are the kinds of experiences you need to learn about, and that everyone needs to learn about, because for most of us, that's the reality. That's what being trans means. It means losing everything but your beating heart just to be who you really are, and for 1 in 12 of us, it means losing even that, our very lives. And you can get up on a stage and mention Mercedes Williamson and what a tragedy it was that she died at the hands of someone who claimed to love her, but when she lived only a couple of counties away, I get to mourn someone I never knew, but someone who I immediately, with all of my heart, wished I had known. Someone who I wished I could have saved. Someone who we could have saved if only we had more people in your position with your voice and your visibility, but who had actually lived through all of the things the rest of us have to live through to help bring about the awareness that we need to make changes. I'm left here to console her friends who have found me on social media while I'm still trying to console myself, grieving over someone I never got the chance to know, who will never have the chance to do all the things she deserves to be able to do. I'm left at Trans Day of Remembrance struggling to maintain my composure during triggering performance pieces I've practically lived through, knowing later I'll have to still maintain that composure as I have to read and hear the names of every single one of the nearly 240 trans women who were murdered worldwide last year, and the countless more trans youth who took their own lives in a world that seems hopeless. And then I get to come home and wonder when I'm going to be next. That's the reality the rest of us have to live with, and you may not be responsible for it or for the actions of those who contribute to it, but you do have a responsibility to learn from those of us who suffered through the worst of it and to make the most of your visibility by educating yourself and taking a stand against the tragedies we have to face. And that means a lot more than getting up on a stage or having a TV show or visiting a family that's lost a trans child. It means acknowledging your privilege and getting down here with the rest of us and sharing that privilege with those who need it the most by uplifting our voices. And maybe for once, keeping your own mouth shut and opening your ears, and with them the ears of the rest of the world who need to hear what trans women like me have to say. As always, thank you so very much for watching, and until next time, be yourself.